All right, hey George. So Radio Face for the King conference is coming up this Saturday, and so why don't you share with people a little bit of the heart behind the event and kind of what's going to be happening and what your hope is, and for people to be able to come and participate in that.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, this Saturday we're having the Radio Faith event, which is called For the King. And the heart behind that is really to encourage and equip the disciples of Jesus Christ to go out and live their faith. Oh. And that's the mission and purpose of Radio Faith. It's a YouTube channel podcast I started in 2018, I think. Okay. And this event is something that's really been on my heart and mind for a while, even before Radio Faith. I just didn't really know what it was going to be. Yeah. But what got me to move forward and get it done was really a grade. Because I'm in school right now for a degree in biblical studies and theology, and I'm in my last term, and this is one of the major assignments was to host a ministry event. And I was like, okay, here's something I've been wanting to do. Here's something I actually have to do now, and let's get a grade on it. Let's make it awesome, and let's go forward with it. Yeah,
I think sometimes we need that outside motivator like that to kind of push us to make some of our ideas and things come to life, and so. No, I think it's going to be a great thing. It also is kind of, you mentioned, so it's kind of filling two purposes for you there. And there's even kind of a third purpose. So at Calvary here, we have in the month of October, what we refer to as O2 or October Outreach. And so this kind of is filling a role there too, but which I think is a unique role for this. Often those have been kind of events that have been more just focused on people here, but I think this is a great opportunity for people from all across the community to be able to come together and be equipped and prepared in different ways. So as I think about that, as people coming from around the community to participate and be a part of this, share a little bit about what people are going to experience when they come, what maybe who's going to be speaking, a little bit of the topics, what's going to be happening, what would they expect if they're going to come and participate in the For the King conference?
Yeah, so what you can expect is the day is going to open up with a time of worship. We're going to have Sidney Escamilla come in, and he's going to lead worship, so we're really excited about that. And we have 5 general topics that are going to be discussed or presented by our speakers. One of them is going to be evangelism. Then we're going to have a speaker talk about discipleship. And we're also going to have a speaker talk about church health and church planting. And then we're going to end the evening or end the day with a talk about spiritual self-leadership. And in the middle of that, we have a panelist discussion that I'm really excited about. It's going to be on the topic of mental health and the church. A conversation I think that's not had too often here in the church arena, I guess, that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it seems like, to me, like there's really something for just about everybody at some point in their spiritual walk or kind of what their role may look like. And there's a broad spectrum here that'll speak to different issues and different things. But I think there's several of those topics that I think speak to everybody on some level, right? I think that we all, no matter what our role is, whether that's our title in our job or not, we all need to be sharing our faith. We need to be telling other people about Jesus, and we want to be equipped to do that. And so I think this is a great thing for that. We all are called to be disciples, to be disciple makers, to be, to be growing in our own faith and helping others do that as well. And then I think we all want to be healthier church members and part of healthy churches. And so I think, that's an important thing for each of us. And then we want to be better leaders, or the best leader that we can be, and I think, we talked about leadership before, and I think that takes on different forms, but I think we all are called to be leaders in some sort of way, in some sort of arena, whether that be in our families or in our workplace or in churches. And so I think there's something for everybody. And that's what really kind of excites me about the event, to get to see people from our community come together from different walks of life, different background, and get to grow. And so I think that's a great thing. And so is there anything else as we kind of think about this event that you want to just be able to share, that it's not everybody goes to conferences all the time, us serving in churches and stuff, that word and that arena kind of is a normal thing that we're used to. But for people out there that maybe don't do that a lot, anything else that you just want to kind of share with them, what they can expect, what that experience might be like when they show up on Saturday the 8th?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's actually been one of the questions in the beginning of marketing for this event. It's like, hey, what is this? What is a conference? Most people that serve in ministry, whether at a high capacity volunteer level or staff, we hear conference, we know exactly what to expect. I guess for the person that hasn't ever really gone to a ministry conference or any kind of conference in general, maybe if you think about TED Talks. TED Talks are people coming up on stage and they have a very specific topic that they're going to spend about 15 to 20 minutes talking about. And you learn something from that. So with that in mind, we're going to have someone come up and they're going to speak about evangelism. 15 to 20 minutes dedicated to speaking about evangelism. And we know the word evangelism is to share the gospel. And as you mentioned, this event for the King has something for everybody. We're kind of in a time in the American church where evangelism is seen as the job of the pastor to do on Sundays. You bring your friend or your family to church on Sundays, but we really want to encourage people to see and seek opportunities to evangelize or present the gospel where they're at in their work and recreation, wherever that. I know you've mentioned a few times where you've had the opportunity to have these God moments and gospel times while you're out on a golf course.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we really want to encourage people to see, that you can share the love of God and share the gospel with anyone wherever you're at. So this speaker is going to be talking about that in evangelism and with discipleship. The speaker, good friend of mine, mentor of mine for 16 years, he's going to be speaking about discipleship and what that looks like, healthy discipleship. Again, sometimes we have an idea that discipleship happens in a Sunday school class or strictly in the confines of a community group. And those are all great. But discipleship is really doing life with someone, really getting into the dirt, as I've described it, of really knowing what's going on in someone's life and pouring into it. Again, unfortunately, we're in a church culture that's kind of given over to church staff and church leadership. But the Bible calls everyone to be a disciple. That if you are a follower of Christ, you are a disciple maker. You should be being discipled. You should be discipled with other people, and you should be discipling someone. And that's the encouragement there. As I mentioned, mental health. I would guess that maybe everyone knows at least somebody that is struggling with some kind of mental health issue, or they might be struggling with a mental health issue. Whether it be depression, anxiety, or something severe that requires some kind of hospitalization. I know in the circles I grew up in, mental health really wasn't something that was discussed. Unfortunately, I grew up around the mindset with some church folk that if you were depressed, it's because you weren't following Christ correctly. Which that if you think about it, someone who's depressed, that really doesn't help them out. Like, oh, the only reason you're depressed is because you're being unfaithful to the Lord in some way. And that's a stigma, I hope, and a mindset that I hope that we can really move away from in church culture, with some church culture. So we're going to have that panel discussion about mental health, and then church health and church planting. You said every Christian should desire to be a healthy church member and to be part of a healthy church. There's been a lot of talk. Unfortunately, you and I have discussed a lot of podcasts coming out about toxic cultures in churches. And we want to make sure that we are healthy, because when the members of a church are healthy, then the church is healthy itself. So what does that look like? And as we've talked about in leadership, that one of the signs of healthy church is sending people out. Absolutely. There's a certain church culture that just wants to hoard church members and keep them for themselves. But we look at the biblical example of sending people out to go and share the gospel, whether that's in the capacity of starting small groups or starting a totally different church. And then the one of the last topics we're going to be discussing is spiritual self leadership. And that's a big one. That's something that isn't maybe really thought about. We have language like quiet time, and usually it's set in the confines of a 5 to 15 minute time right before you get to work. It's something I do, check it off my list, and then go on.
Yeah.
But the Christian life and the Christian walk is so much more than that 15 minutes. That 15 minutes at the beginning of the day is great and it's important, but that's like the primer to set you for the rest of the day. So what does it look like to have spiritual self leadership? And then how does that affect your family, and your church?
Yeah, no, that's great. I think, as I'm thinking about some of the different topics and stuff, it comes to the kind of identity statements that we've used to kind of go along with our purpose statement here. Calvary are that we are worshipers and we are disciples and we are missionaries. And I feel like we're going to kind of cover all of those things, and that's exciting. So we've talked a little bit about the content and about what we're going to be talking about, what people can expect. You mentioned and alluded a little bit to some of the people who are going to be coming. You mentioned Sydney, who I've known for a long time. Sydney Escamilla, I've known him since he was a 15-year-old kid leading in his youth group when I was a student ministry intern, and got to see him grow. It's an incredible worship leader now. But would you like to share just a little bit about some of the other people who are going to be coming that evening? Yeah,
so Pastor Nate, our pastor here at Calvary, he's going to be one of the speakers. He's going to be speaking on evangelism, and he's just been a great example of that. We talk quite often about his practice and habit of when we go out to eat as his staff or just hanging out, that he often takes the time to ask the waiter or the server what their name is, and then before we eat, informs the server that, hey, we're going to pray before we eat. Is there anything we can pray for you about? Which is just a great way, one, to let them know without just, like, how do you say it, Bible thumping them across the head, like, hey, we're here, we're going to do something, we're about to talk to God. What can we talk to God about you for? Which is a great way. And then it kind of opens the door later when we're done eating to go and talk to them about the gospel. So when I thought about evangelism, that topic was, okay, great. Pastor Nate, and he's been on the mission field. He sees where he lives as a mission field. When we have our staff meetings, the opening question every Monday is, did anyone have the opportunity to present the gospel? And when you really think about it, we always have an opportunity to present the gospel. It's just a matter of seeing and seeking it.
Did we take that opportunity?
Did we take that opportunity? So in the time that I've spent under his leadership, it's really shifted my mindset and paradigm as to seeing the opportunities that are always around us, or making those opportunities. As I mentioned, my mentor of 16 years is going to be talking about discipleship, and that's Dr. Norberto Gomez. And he's been my mentor for 16 years. I've been under his discipleship for 16 years. We first met when I was in high school. I think I might have been 16 or 15, and he was a youth pastor. And ever since then, he's been the go-to guy that we've had a great relationship, always talking, calling, texting back and forth. And he's been in the dirt with me. He's gone through so many things, and I've gone through so many things with him. And I thought, who better to talk about discipleship than the person I've been under discipleship for so long. Awesome. And then a good friend of mine, Julio Ariola, he was a youth pastor of mine as well. He was a youth pastor right before Brother Gomez came in, and he's going to be talking about church health and church planning. And again, who better to talk about that? He's served at Segunda, where I was at, as a youth minister there. Then he went to Sugar Creek to serve there in their worship. And then after that, I believe he went to, I think it was Arkansas, Cross Church in Arkansas. And then he planted a church in Mexico, which just exploded.
That's
first
a massive place now.
It's just where there was, from what I can remember, there was little to no presence of Christian faith there. Just exploded, and God used him and the team there. And then he was called over, I believe, to be executive director at the SBT. I think
at the national convention, first at the SBC first.
Yes, and then now he's serving in a partnership with, I think it's NAM and the SBTC. As a church plan.
He's been all over the place. He's super active.
Correct. He's with the Send Network. So I was thinking, hey, church health and church planning, a guy that has been in every type of church culture you can think of, from traditional to contemporary, to helping launch a church, to now helping people find the church planners within their church. So I was okay, great. That's an awesome person to get to talk about church health and church planning. And then a good friend of mine who we connected in 2020, Richie Allen. He's going to be talking about spiritual self-leadership.
Okay.
And we met during one of the most difficult times of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad, and my wife and I are so blessed that he and I connected at that time.
Yeah.
And him just helping me redirect and see certain things that I was blinded to at that time, and help me get out of that rut and walk out of that valley.
Yeah.
So he's been a great voice in my life, and indirectly into my wife's life and my kids' life, and really putting spiritual leadership as a priority. So I reached out to him. It's something that he's passionate about, and I'm just looking forward to that. And then mental health, as I mentioned. So we're going to have Pastor Nate is going to be the moderator for the mental health panel, and then we're going to have our very own Brenda Lopez. She's going to be talking about mental health. She's a licensed Christian counselor, and then a friend of mine, Annabelle Morales, she's going to be on there as well. So we're just going to have a good open discussion about mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so that sounds exciting. I think, we've heard a lot of the content that's going to be covered, and a little bit of who is going to get to be here. And so I think I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for people in our community to come have a place right here locally. This is, I think, going to be kind of a cool thing. It's often something that we've got to go find somewhere, but this is going to be a place that people from our community can come, recognize probably some familiar faces, but get to have a really valuable experience, an opportunity for them to grow, become better followers of Christ, better disciples, better evangelists, and to begin to see themselves in that way, I think, as well, better leaders. And so I'm excited for the For the King conference, for people to be here. It's going to be hosted here at Calvary Baptist Church. So we're excited to open our doors and to welcome in the community to come and to have this opportunity to participate in the conference. So I'm looking forward to it.
I just want to say thank you again to you as a missions pastor, Pastor Nate, and to the Calvary body. It's just y'all's encouragement as I'm completing my degree, and helping me along that with just words of encouragement. Hey, how can we help? Allowing me to stay here late to work on homework, and then just with this big assignment of people coming together and helping out, and really helping me to move forward with the mission and vision of Radio Faith, the podcast YouTube channel I had. As I mentioned, that was something that was seated in my heart years ago. And the mission is to encourage and equip the disciples of Jesus to live out their faith wherever they're at. And anyone who's not familiar with that podcast or channel, I have so many different type of guests on there. Yeah. And we've talked about before, as with the conference, usually it's for ministerial staff or high-level volunteers. Yeah. And when you listen to a lot of Christian podcasts, usually you're listening to a guest who's a pastor, a minister staff, someone who's selling a book or has another podcast, which is all great. But as I was listening to all these podcasts, I realized, hey, there are millions of Christians out there who are worshiping the Lord that we don't know their story. Yeah. They're a teacher in elementary. Yeah. They don't have a platform other than the 30 to 40 or 60 students that they minister on a daily basis. What is it like for them to live out their faith? Yeah. Or what is it like for the construction worker to live out their faith? Yeah. And to do their job well for the honor and glory of God. So that's been the mission and vision of Radio Faith, to give people a platform to share their testimony and encourage people. And then on a more focused scale here with the event, For the King event, how do we do that in evangelism, discipleship, helping those with mental health, being a good church member, and then leading ourselves well. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I think that's huge. Because the vast majority of the body of Christ is made up of not people who serve vocationally in ministry, right? And I think that we believe that vocational ministry is important, right? And you need those people to lead. But the body is made up of so many more people that serve in so many different, careers and fields, that they have opportunities and different things that we wouldn't even know about. So it's great to be able to hear their story. I think sometimes it can be encouraging for us that can get kind of stuck in this vocational ministry bubble, but to hear about what God's doing, maybe out there in the real world, and so, and maybe encourage us to get out there and have encounters, I think,
outside of just the bubble that we can often kind of get stuck in. And so I think this is a great way for people from all different walks of life to come together, to be encouraged, to be equipped. It's going to be an exciting day. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to kicking off our month of October outreach in this way. I think it's going to be a great start to the month here. And so looking forward to it.
Yeah. And anyone who's interested, they can register at radiofaith.com. Yeah. You'll send them to the registration link and they just go through the process, and we'll see them on October 8th.
All right. Thanks so much for your time, George. Man, I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks very much for tuning in today. If these sorts of conversations are a blessing to your life, please subscribe to this channel so that you can catch more of them. And also, if what you've heard has impacted your life in any way, would you please comment about that in the section below? Thanks a bunch. God bless you.